Expressing contrast and concession in English involves using specific language structures to highlight differences or acknowledge opposing viewpoints. Here's a detailed explanation with examples. 1. Expressing contrast. 1.1 Conjunctions. Conjunctions are words that connect words, phrases, or clauses. 1. Some common conjunctions used to express contrast are but, however, although, while, and yet. 1. Example: the weather was sunny, but we decided to stay indoors. 1.2 Adverbs. Adverbs can be used to modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. Adverbs like however, nevertheless, and still are often used to express contrast. 1. Example: she was tired, however, she continued working on the project. 1.3 While, whereas. While and whereas are conjunctions used to introduce a contrast between two clauses or phrases. 1. Example: she enjoys hiking, while, whereas her brother prefers indoor activities. 2. Expressing concession. 2.1 Even though, although. Even though, and although, are used to introduce a clause that concedes or acknowledges a fact, even if it is contrary to the main clause. 1. Example: although it was raining, they decided to go for a walk. 2.2 Nevertheless. Nevertheless is an adverb that introduces a contrasting idea but indicates that it does not invalidate the preceding statement. 1. Example: the experiment did not yield the expected results. Nevertheless, valuable data was collected. 2.3 Despite, in spite of. Despite, and in spite of, are prepositions used to introduce a noun or gerund phrase that indicates contrast or concession. 1. Example: despite the challenges, the team completed the project on time. 3. Examples in context. 3.1 Expressing contrast. 1. Context: discussing two characters in a novel. 2. Sentence: Mary is reserved and thoughtful, while her sister, Jane, is outgoing and talkative. 3.2 Expressing concession. 1. Context: discussing challenges in a project. 2. Sentence: even though we faced budget constraints, we managed to deliver a successful outcome. 3.3 Combining contrast and concession. 1. Context: analyzing pros and cons. 2. Sentence: the project faced delays due to unforeseen challenges, but even though the timeline was affected, the team achieved remarkable results. Tips for expressing contrast and concession. Be clear and specific. 1. Clearly express the contrast or concession to ensure your message is understood. Use varied vocabulary. 1. Employ a range of contrastive and concessive expressions to avoid repetition. Consider the tone. 1. Adjust the tone based on the context. Some situations may require a more formal or informal tone. Maintain coherence. 1. Ensure that the contrasting or conceding elements contribute to the overall coherence of your message. Conclusion. Effectively expressing contrast and concession in English involves using a combination of conjunctions, adverbs, and prepositions. Mastering these structures allows you to articulate differences and acknowledge opposing viewpoints with clarity and precision in both spoken and written communication.